Good evening. Welcome to your Kingdom Come. Tonight we'll be going over Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. And like I've done every night, a brief intro. This book was written by King Solomon. He also wrote the Songs of Solomon and the Proverbs. And in this book, the book of Ecclesiastes, the Hebrew original language is Kohelet, meaning the teacher or the preacher. And as you can see, we've covered a couple chapters where he's questioning. He's in a depression, a couple chapters where he gets into teaching, and his mind is a little all over the place at the moment, but the whole book will come together and you'll get the complete context. That's why I'm doing this 2 chapters at a time. But we'll get right into it tonight. Wisdom for life. A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume, and the day you die is better than the day you are born. Better to spend your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. So in the first verse, you'll see a good reputation. I want you to understand that this book was written in a Hebrew context at a Hebrew time. So the Hebrew language, and when I say Hebrew time, this is when the Hebrews were the only ones ultimately ascribed to God. They were the only ones dedicated and consecrated to God. So when they said these words, we want to look back at their original language to understand what are they referencing to exactly. Well, reputation is different, just like the word Shem in Hebrew is name. But your name is your reputation and your character, as opposed to something we kind of learn in the West world where we think someone's name is Michael or Joe. But your name, Shem in the Hebrew, is your character. What makes you unique, your reputation, your qualities. So what he's stressing here is that good name, that good Shem, that good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. But he also covers that it's better to spend time at funerals than at parties. And you'll see in the third verse why he says that. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. Not to say that there's something wrong with joy, but there is something wrong when you can't honestly bow a knee to your creator because you're too blinded by your own inner enjoyment and your own entertainment, that you're sitting there behind the TV, behind your programs, doing what you're doing, that sometimes if you're truly one of the kingdom citizens and you're one of God's children, you will be humbled and you will go through sadness and testing and refining that'll bring you to your knees. And it's better to be at that point because you become totally dependent upon your creator, your God in heaven, and you're not dependent on your own entertainment, joy, your own functions, your day to day. And that's what he's stressing here. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. There it is again. Better to be criticized by a wise person than be praised by a fool. This is something we're missing today, big time. Everybody wants to be praised. No one wants to be criticized. Everyone has thin skin. A fool's laughter is quickly gone, like thorns crackling in a fire. This also is meaningless. Extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are a benefit as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. A wise person can comprehend the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So as I read through this book, and if you read along, if you study the scriptures like I do, if you're a student of the scriptures, all that knowledge is nice and it can do you real well. But if not applied, you're still a fool. A wise person, whether it be a woman or a man, can analyze these scriptures and apply them into their life. That's the difference with wisdom. That's why I can have all the money in the world, but without wisdom, I'm still a fool. But if I can actually have understanding and apply that understanding and then have money, my wisdom will allow me not only to bless myself, but bless others. Accept the way God does things, for who can straighten what he has made crooked? Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, realize that both come from God, so stay grounded. Remember a couple chapters ago, he talks about a time and a season. And he talks about a time for joy and a time for pain. And he talks about all these different times, these differences. In order for you to get balance in life, you have to be ready for when it rains and when it's sunny. And you can't always believe it'll always be sunny, and you can't always believe it'll always rain. That leaves you unbalanced. You either lack faith or you're over it and you won't be ready for when the rain comes. Remember that nothing is certain in this life. The limits of human wisdom. I have seen everything in this meaningless life, including the death of good young people and the long life of wicked people. I mean, I'm sure we all have said this at some point. Why do some of the good die young? And why does our Creator, our God in heaven, allow some of the most wicked, vile people to live till they're 90? So don't be too good or too wise. Why destroy yourself? On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Now, I don't think time is stressed enough, and sadly, we don't hear it preached enough or teached enough. And again, I'm just someone who's exposing the scriptures. I'm not claiming to be a teacher, a preacher. I'm just someone who does exposing what I see in context and tries to bless someone. And what I want to stress here is time is the most underrated and underappreciated commodity in life. You can get money back, you can get a car, you can get a house, you can lose it, you can gain it, but no one has ever told you I've gained and lost time. What I mean by that is, yes, every day you're losing time, but it doesn't fluctuate. It's one direction. From the minute you're born, you're going downward. Your time starts. The hourglass is flipped. And what we do with our time determines if we're wise or a fool. Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes. Again, if you stay on your knees, you stay humble, you have reverence and awe for your Creator, you know that without Him you don't even get a breath in this life. You'll avoid both extremes, from being too wicked or just being too meaningless and just someone who is either saying they're too good or too wise. Someone who fears God with reverence and awe will avoid those extremes. One wise person is stronger than 10 leading citizens of a town. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear your servant curse you, for you know how often you yourself have cursed others. I have always tried my best to let wisdom guide my thoughts and actions. I said to myself, I am determined to be wise, but it didn't work. Wisdom is always distant. Bear with me 1 second. And difficult to find. I've searched everywhere, determined to find wisdom and understand the reason for things. I was determined to prove myself that wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. Now again, before I read 26, I want you to see something. All the way down to 28, you're going to see something very powerful. I had led in with, and I said it multiple times, multiple nights, that one of King Solomon's, the greatest of King Solomon's downfall, is he was led astray by women who pulled him off the path, and he started following their idols and their gods, and he completely lost his way, as you see shown in this book multiple times. So you're going to see his heart is real calloused and hard-hearted towards women, and he's going to have some not nice things to say. And that is why I stress context in order to get the background before you misquote verse 28, which you're going to see here shortly, and you don't understand the context of this man at this point in his life. So let's look at what I'm talking about, and you'll see it exposed. I discovered that a seductive woman is a trap more bitter than death. Her passion is a snare, and her soft hands are chains. Those who are pleasing to God will escape her, but sinners will be caught in her snare. This is my conclusion, says the teacher. I discovered this after looking at the matter from every possible angle. Though I have searched repeatedly, I have not found what I was looking for. Only 1 out of 1,000 men is virtuous, but not one woman. Now, you and I know that that is not a true statement, but for him, at this point in his life, you can understand why he would make that statement. So let's put ourselves in the author's shoes and understand after I gave you context. But if you take a couple of those verses, you could totally destroy the intent of what the message is of this book. But I did find this. God created people to be virtuous, but they have each turned to follow their own downward path. I think it's critical for you to understand another part of this. For the ones that say the devil made me do it, it's not my fault. These demons made me do it. Read that again. But I did find this. God created people to be virtuous, but who? They have each turned to follow their own downward path. So we have to stay humble and look in a reflection instead of blaming every single thing outside of what we do ourselves. How wonderful to be wise, to analyze and interpret things. Wisdom lights up a person's face, softening its harshness. Obedience to the king. Obey the king since you vowed to God that you would. Don't try to avoid doing your duty, and don't stand with those who plot evil. For the king can do whatever he wants. His command is backed by great power. No one can resist or question it. Those who obey him will not be punished. Those who are wise will find a time and a way to do what is right. For there is a time and a way for everything, even when a person is in trouble. Now, I want you to see something. Again, I want to expose something out of these scriptures so you can see them. I don't want to say 3D, but have a better understanding, I hope. When you see obedience to the king, do you understand that the king, the fleshly king, even as corrupt as they are, is not your intent of obeying them, but yet a reflection of your obedience to a commandment or a vow that you've made to God? For example, when you have a mother and a father, and you're told to honor your parents, the way you honor them is a direct reflection of how you would honor your Creator, your Father in heaven. So understand that it's not so much their actions, it's your actions that are under judgment when it's your behavior. So I just want you to see that in the scriptures when he says, obey the king since you vowed to God that you would. Just like honor your father and mother, you're doing that as a reflection of how you would honor God. So I just want you to see that. Indeed, how can people avoid what they don't know is going to happen? None of us can hold back our spirit from departing. None of us have the power to prevent the days of our death. There is no escaping that obligation, that dark battle. And in the face of death, wickedness will certainly not rescue the wicked and the righteous. I have thought deeply about all that goes on here under the sun, where people have the power to hurt each other. I have seen wicked people buried with honor, yet they are the very ones who frequented the temple and are now praised in the same city where they committed their crimes. Boy, is that definitely timely right now. All these religious people we see, they call themselves, you name it under the sun. They call themselves Christians. They call themselves Catholics. They call themselves every denomination you can imagine, every flavor. Yet look what they do. They go to the temple. They frequent their local church. On the outward, they look like, the best, most religious person. But inward, what are they? They commit their crimes and they're praised. And this too is meaningless. When a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it is safe to do wrong. But even though a person sins 100 times and still lives a long time, here we go, I know that those who fear God will be better off. So again, I really want to stress, because we're almost to the end, how King Solomon, is all over the place in this book, but you're seeing a couple glimpses. It's almost like you're looking through a glass and it's covered, but you're seeing shining light when the sun's hitting it, that at these times his heart still shines out and he makes these statements. Like, I know that those who fear God, have a reverence and awe, will be better off than those who sin 100 times and say, where is this God you speak of? The wicked will not prosper, for they do not fear God. Their days will never grow long like the evening shadows. And this is not all that is meaningless in our world. In this life, good people are often treated as though they were wicked, and the wicked people are often treated as though they were good. This is so meaningless. So I've recommended having fun, but there is nothing better for people in this world than to eat, drink, and enjoy life. That way they will experience some happiness with all the hard work God gives them under the sun. In my search for wisdom, and in my observation of people's burdens here on earth, I discovered that there is ceaseless activity day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. Not even the wisest people discover everything, no matter what they claim. So to close out on what he just said, exposing it, Our thoughts are as high as the heavens to our Creator's thoughts. He knows from the beginning to the end. So when we look at some suffering, or we look at something going on, or we say, why is there no justice? We're seeing as an ant through tall blades of grass, while our Creator is all the way up above looking down. Tell me who has the better vantage point to make a decision. So I just want to leave you with that. I pray that this 7 and 8 have been a blessing. I'd like to finish out hopefully by the end of this week, but I really enjoy this time sharing this and just exposing the scriptures to you. I'm nobody special, no teacher, preacher. I don't have these cute motivational speeches. I just want to get on here and expose some scripture to just pique your interest and maybe get into the word and get to know who your Creator is. So as I close out, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. In the name of our great and mighty Creator, peace.